Welcome to Goshen Prepping. I come to you today with no glasses on. The reason being is there are so many places on the head that are strike points, punching points, vulnerabilities that make it so if somebody's attacking you, of course, we're talking about if crap hits the fan, you need to be able to defend yourself in these situations that you can strike, hit, whatever. And I want to go through those locations on the head because you'd be amazed on how vulnerable you are when it comes to your head and your face and such. Whole bunch of stuff. All right, first off, striking points. If you want to punch someone in the head and the face, there's certain things you're going to want to aim for. Your temporal area, first of all, if you hit hard enough there, it'll make them pass out. If you actually punch in the jaw, the mandible right here along this edge right here breaks relatively easy, by the way. And even in our regular times when we have medicine stuff, we're talking about having their jaw wired shut or wired back together for 6 months while it heals. It's a very slow healing bone, obviously very painful. You can punch them in the neck. The carotid arteries right here send blood to the brain and make it so if you punch it, it's more vulnerable. Obviously, if you're talking about even like knife strikes and stuff too, can work very well. But even more so, this is really interesting though, right on the side of the neck, so right here, we have what's called the carotid sinus. And the carotid sinus is where the blood pressure is actually regulated to your head. Your body doesn't want your blood pressure to go too high to the head because it may cause a stroke, or too low to the head, it may make you pass out. So right here on the neck, you have a location called the carotid sinus. It's a pressure receptor. It's called a baroreceptor, which regulates that pressure. And if you punch it really hard right there, then suddenly the brain will be like, oh, wow, the blood pressure to the head is really high, and it'll drop the blood pressure and they'll pass out. In Taekwondo, we do what's called a knife hand strike right there in that location to make them pass out. But one of the things I instruct too is Krav Maga. Krav Maga, which is fantastic, is not like incredibly precise strikes, which I still love too. It is about you do what needs to be done, you take care of business, and there you go. So you don't necessarily have a really nice strike there, but punch them really hard right in the neck here, or here, or here, or here to the temporal lobe, and you're going to make them pass out. Overall, by the way, if you hit somebody in the head hard enough, it's literally going to have it so the brain will smack the side of the skull, and that's a concussion. Now, if it smacks hard enough, it can cause bleeding, cause problems, can make them pass out, could even kill them, obviously. And you know what? If crap hits the fan, you got to protect yourself. You got to protect yourself and do what you can. Punching someone to the head that hard, it's going to be, I'm not saying impossible, but quite difficult to make them pass out unless you really lay into them or you have some kind of weapon, obviously. And another location, by the way, is the top of your neck, right? Goes into your skull. If you're in the back of the head, you can punch there or hit them with something very hard. We're not even talking about like breaking the spine per se, but it'll easily make them pass out. Now, furthermore, the cheekbones, this is called the zygomatic arch. And literally, it's not a thick bone. It's a little arch that goes like this. And you punch them right here in that zygomatic arch. When it snaps, it causes blood to pool. And on that side, it's going to make it very difficult for them to see, not to mention, obviously, the pain. Or the nose. The nose right here is all cartilage, by the way. That's not going to do anything. But right here at the top of the nose, they call that the bridge, it breaks pretty easy. And slamming something right on top of their nose right there will break it. And if it breaks enough, again, a lot of swelling and may obstruct the vision. So you may even say, why even try to go for a specific spot of punching or hitting those locations? And that's a valid point. There are certain things you can do to try to get away from someone if they're trying to grab you. And it comes to the eyes. The eyes are a great location to really make them try to give up. And by the way, a stat for you, if somebody's trying to take you, they're trying to steal something from you or harm you, whatever the case may be, and you fight back, you keep fighting. You keep fighting and you don't stop fighting. You use every possible means to not stop fighting because you may not be able to overpower them. But what happens is they will often, after a minute, stats say after a minute, they'll say, this is not even worth it. Because by the way, criminals don't look for a way to get out and try to escape. They look for a better victim. So if you try to really just make their life miserable, they'll give up on you. And I hate to say it, go after somebody else. So maybe at that point, get some of your friends and help you take out that person before they continue to ravage your family or friends or neighbors. Okay, so when it comes to the eyes, there's some things you can do. Number one, if you take your fingers, don't make them straight and hard, by the way, but just kind of relax. And you go, wow, right there, right in their eyes. Wow. Because what happens is, we poke ourselves in the eye all the time accidentally. But if you take your fingers, relax, and like that toward the eye, just like that, it will hit odds are one of the fingers will hit the eye. and they'll quickly cover like this, and it may give you a chance to get away. So really quick. You don't want to do in a straight or a strong finger, by the way, because it may actually jam your finger and cause more pain or problems with you. But just relaxed fingers, wow, snap in their eyes, do it right here in their face a few times, and it may do well. Another thing you can do, and you ready for this, is your thumbs. When we can do an eye gouge. It's not, you see it in the movies, by the way, but the movies do not show you how graphic and horrible this really can be. But if you take your thumb and put it right here on the center of the eye, right toward the nose, and push in and go like this, it will rip those very delicate eye muscles, and your eye will pop right out of your skull. Yes, obviously we're talking about real crap hits the fan. Do not, or even obviously somebody just trying to grab you is crap hitting the fan, in my opinion. But obviously don't do any of these things on an unsuspecting person, because obviously you can get your butt sued or can cause obvious problems with them. But in this situation, causing problems with them is the key. As you put your thumb in and pop, the eye will pop out. It'll rip right out of their skull, and it'll be hanging by the optic nerve. So literally they'll still keep seeing. They can actually see stuff on the ground. And of course, the pain's going to be excruciating, but who knows, if they're on drugs, they may still come after you. Just go ahead and pop the other eye out. I mean, I don't think they're going to be chasing you at this point, unless they're taking their eyes and they're looking around like this with them and holding them. But you've probably done very well as far as getting away. Because again, here's the thing, guys. All these different locations on the skull, fight, fight, fight. Because when it comes to the skull, obviously we have certain bones that may actually break easier or not. We already talked about the mandible, which heals very slowly. We talked about the zygomatic arch, which is very easy to snap and break and cause swelling in the area. The forehead, or the frontal bone as it called it, is the strongest bone in the entire skull. So you could, if you wanted to, headbutt somebody with that, and that's what people do. They'll headbutt. But that's still not the best thing to do, by the way. If you ever want to headbutt somebody, and let's say some dude's grabbing you, simply just put your head down a little bit, you grab their head, and boom, ram their nose into your own head. So their nose will hit your forehead, bam, and you can cause problems that way. Or turn it to the side, so the zygomatic hits it, your forehead will beat their bones every single time. Unless, obviously, you headbutt their forehead, which people do that kind of thing. I'm not sure why. The last bone we'll talk about, by the way, is the parietal bone. That's these flat bones here. Honestly, it's not, I put this last because it's probably not the most defensible bone. But in this bone, this is actually the most fractured bone when it comes to the flat bones in the skull. And right here, not on the very back, but on the side, it's actually pretty fragile and pretty thin. Hitting somebody in the head right there will smash their skull in very easily. But again, the frontal bone, it's good for headbutting. But again, don't headbutt like this. You pull them into your forehead to be able to do it. Pretty graphic stuff. But this is what we teach in Krav Maga, because Krav Maga is not like this beautiful, oh, look at this well-positioned hammer fist and all these different things. I love Taekwondo and other martial arts too. But Krav Maga is, I'm going to kick your butt and get away and do what needs to be done. So I'm going to take action now. If you like these Krav Maga videos, by the way, and I'll talk more about this in the future, I'll be happy to do that for you. Put it in the comments below if you'd like to see more. But anyways, there's all kinds of things and drastic actions you need to be taken if, well, crap hits the fan, at least in your world, and somebody's trying to grab you or take advantage, whatever the case may be. You do what needs to be done, and you go home and take this situation in your own hands, and you go crazy on them and continuously push and beat and whatever you need to, and don't give up. But the skull, full of a lot of locations, your face and your head, lots of locations to put them into submission, so hopefully they will stop going after you. Hope this helps, and thanks for watching.